Why can't I get my husband to engage? Why does he seem like he's numb? Why, when I ask him questions, is it flat? What is going on?
I've heard this from a lot of women. Like, I just want my man to be vulnerable. I want him to open up. I've heard from men, and I have felt myself at times, like, you want me to be vulnerable, but when I'm vulnerable, you criticize me for how I'm vulnerable. It's so important for women to understand the power that they hold over men.
You touched on the premise of this, the masculine shame, that a man needs to be the foundation, the steady, the hold it all together. Is that biblical? We are going to do a reaction video today. So let's just hop right in and then go from there. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Any thoughts?
I'm excited to do this. It'll be fun.
Good. Here we go.
Here's something most women will never see with their own eyes. A grown man sitting in his car in the driveway, staring at the steering wheel, trying to summon the energy to walk into his own home. Not because he doesn't love what's inside, but because he feels like everything he is as a man, a father, a husband, isn't enough. That's not depression. That's masculine shame. And most men would rather chew glass than talk about it. Shame for men doesn't look like tears. It looks like distance, silence, overworking, porn, numbing it with a screen, drugs or alcohol, or that dull, flat tone you've come to expect when you ask what's wrong. It's not because he doesn't care. It's because he does care and he feels like a failure anyway. Any man, every man walks into a room with one subconscious question: am I respected here? Not loved, respected. And when the answer feels like no, over and over and over again, he withdraws. Because to a man, there's nothing more dangerous than being vulnerable in a space where he already feels small. If you've ever rolled your eyes when he shared something real, or if you ever corrected his story in front of others, or if you ever asked for honesty, then reacted badly when he gave it, he remembers. He locks it into the box of shame and self-hate inside his chest, the box that is so full it springs open like Pandora's box. When he's being silent, he's not dumb or distant, he's probably just wrestling that lid shut. So what do? Do you mollycoddle him? No way. If you know me by now, that's something I will never stand by. He's a man. You want your husband to be a man. You can't breastfeed him, change his nappy, stroke his hair, and rock him to sleep. What I'm saying is, don't lower your standards. You don't shrink yourself, and no, you don't become his emotional manager, but you do stop treating his silence like defiance, because it's not always disrespect. Sometimes it's unspoken shame. So instead of, why won't you talk to me? Try this. I'm not your enemy, and I don't need you to fix anything. I just want to know you're still here. That line, it lands. It doesn't demand anything. It doesn't emasculate, but it reminds him that you're safe to show up here as a man, even if you're not at your best.
You are safe to show up here as a man. Even
Thank
if you're
you.
not at
Thank
your
you for that
best.
permission to show up as a man.
Masculine shame.
Yeah.
It's interesting that this has landed with so many people, this idea that a man wants to be respected when it's
Yeah, I
very
feel like
clearly
we've
in
been
the
hearing
Bible.
this. Yeah, we've been hearing this, at least in the circles I've been a part of since I was a young boy, the same message.
Women need love, men need respect.
And I think that's largely true. Like, there are some men who need more love and some women who need more respect, but largely true. I would agree with that.
So what parts of what he was saying, because I think sometimes the typical framework is that the woman is the more emotional in a marriage, and it leaves very little room for the man to have emotions, to have shame that he's moving through. I mean, there's shame around decisions or sin, but a low-lying hum of masculine shame. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, we have different emotions. So, I mean, I don't want to get technical, but you have feelings, you have emotions. Emotions would be the response to certain things that we feel. There are mature emotions, there are immature emotions, and so I struggle, if I'm going to be honest with you, like I struggle with videos like this one.
Tell me about that.
Here's why. And I actually don't even like the idea of reaction videos. So this is like a double negative for me, but apparently that makes it a positive.
How did you end up here?
I know. Obviously, I was forced into this environment, which maybe is a sign that I don't feel respected. But that's a whole nother conversation. Actually, that might be today's conversation. Wow, that's what I've said yes to. I don't love these reaction videos in general.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people are taking these 2 to 3 minute clips that have gained a lot of popularity, and they're trying to come on the wake of what that other person did or what they said. And they're criticizing, they're being hypercritical of this thing or that thing. And I think if any of us talk for 2 to 3 minutes, we're probably going to say something worth being critical of, right? So there's an element of that I don't love. And then also, I don't like these types of videos where people get on and they talk for 3 minutes with this extreme, I'm going to call it extreme, I'm going to call it hyperbolic, which basically is like it's an exaggeration of saying this is what truth is. It's categorical, it's absolute. And if you want to be on the side of truth, you have to agree with everything that I'm saying. There's very little room for nuance in what he's saying. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of slinking into nuance, but I do think that you have to acknowledge that we're not carbon copies of each other.
Sure.
And there's even quite a bit of diversity within the idea of a man and the idea of a woman. And videos like this, for me, do not acknowledge the breadth of beauty and diversity that God uses when he creates man and creates woman.
Yeah.
I think that in a way feeds the confusion around what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman. So that being said, I feel like what happens when we see videos like this, where it's very definitive, it's very absolute, people are like, oh yeah, that's me. I'm jumping on that bandwagon. I'm going to attach myself to what he's saying in the spirit that he says it in. And it becomes, I'm going to call it borrowed conviction. And here's the problem with borrowed conviction. Borrowed conviction only becomes real if at some point you pay the price to make it your own. And if you feel like someone else's articulation releases you from paying the price of making it your own, that's problematic.
Okay.
Right? So that's some of my disclaimer, if you will, as I go into engaging the content of the video itself, is I don't want to interact with our audience from this position of every man is going to look like this, every woman is going to look like that.
Yeah.
I think it's unhelpful. I mean, we were having conversations even before we began this video with some of the production team and hearing their thoughts on this video. And some of these sentiments were expressed as well. And so even one of our team members said, hey, I'm a woman and I can very much sympathize with that idea of sitting at my steering wheel when I'm transitioning from one place to another, trying to process the moment, process what I'm leaving, what I'm entering into, wanting to show up the right way, maybe not feeling like I have the energy or that I quote unquote am enough, and having to reset, having to take a deep breath, having to find my bearings again.
Groceries are wildly expensive now. We have 4 children, and so cooking for a family of 6 is no joke. I have loved, though, being on a subscription with Good Ranchers, where the meat comes to our house, and then I'm able to see what's missing, what I need for meals for the week. It's a game changer, and it's great meat. I mean, I am a food snob, and it is excellent meat in our freezer. We just get it out. They even have these easy thaw bags. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
And Julie, what's amazing is if people subscribe and use the code Beveres, okay, so that's just simple Beveres, our last name, they can get up to $500 off in 1 year.
That's cool.
Is that amazing?
Yeah.
And they get an additional $25 off their first order.
That's right, Addison. Code Beveres. Go to goodranchers.com. American meat delivered.
I feel like in some ways there's truth here that we can relate to, and then it's tied to other things that maybe are not quite as true. Like, so for instance, so the idea of, am I enough?
Yes.
I think that is a human question. I don't think that's just a man I think that's human. There's a gentleman that I know, his name's Mike Foster, and he wrote a book about the 7 primal questions. I actually wrote them down. It's, am I safe? Am I secure? Am I loved? Am I wanted? Am I successful? Am I enough? And do I have purpose?
Mm.
And all of us, we navigate these 7 primal questions in different ways. And depending on origin story, depending on our nature too, not just nurture, but nature, we're going to gravitate toward some of these more than others, but they're all a part of our formation. They're all a part of the journey of becoming.
Yeah.
And you know, Mike, if I remember correctly, Mike Foster, when he was sharing this with us, I'm pretty sure his is, am I safe? Like that's his driving primal question. And that had to do with some family dynamics that he experienced growing up. And so I think it's dangerous. I think it's dangerous to be like, okay, hey, I've figured out who my husband is based on another man's account of what a man is or what a man should be.
Okay, I hear you.
I know, and I know you're going to push back, and I value it.
I hear you, and I appreciate what you are saying. But for a lot of women,
Yeah,
their husband isn't willing to do the work to gather language to express these things. And like you said, with your friend whose question is, am I safe? There's a past there. A lot of men, it hasn't been modeled for them.
yeah,
How to express themselves, how to pay the price for their own language to express themselves. And so for women who, you know, they don't want to stay in this cycle of this crazy cycle of misunderstanding and miscommunication with their husband. So they're grasping for some sort of understanding.
yeah,
What is going on? Why does he seem like he's numb? Why, when I ask him questions, is it flat? Why can't I get my husband to engage with life
yeah,
in the way that would be best for our marriage, for our family, for him as an individual?
yeah,
What are those barriers? And so they see a video like this, and I think it is why a video like this and content like this at large is so popular, is because people simply are not doing the work. They are borrowing convictions, but is
Yeah.
a borrowed conviction better than no conviction at all?
I think it can be for a time. I think it can also, if it doesn't have substance, if it isn't grounded, I think it's easily weaponized. And I just want to be clear. I agree with a lot of the things that he's saying. So what I was speaking to is more so the idea of videos like this and how we can use them as a substitute to doing the hard work of knowing and being known. And so, but just to call out a couple things, I do very much relate to this idea of if a man is not respected, he's going to withdraw. That being said, I don't think it's always a withdrawal into silence or absence. I think the withdrawal could also look like a almost empty, like he's not there, but he's intense with you. So he's engaging, but he's not engaging in a healthy way because he's actually, the reality of who he is withdrawn. And so now there's this superficial forced strength that he's trying to prove something because he doesn't feel respected. Does that make sense?
It does. And as a woman, I feel like that shows up as a hollow presence.
Yes. I think that's a great way to describe it. There's a hollowness to his presence, to his engagement. So maybe he's not actually withdrawn, maybe he's not removed, and maybe it seems like he's more engaged and he's angry, but the reality of him is not showing up even in that anger. It's like he's hedging his bets even in his intensity and his anger. And I think I think it looks different from man to man. But that idea of withdrawal when there's disrespect, that's real. And he said something, he said a man doesn't want to be vulnerable in a place where he feels small. And I've heard this from a lot of women. Like, I just want my man to be vulnerable. I want him to open up. But then what men often hear, and I'm using language that I've heard from men, And I have felt myself at times like, you want me to be vulnerable, but when I'm vulnerable, you criticize me for how I'm vulnerable.
Hmm.
And you make me feel small in my vulnerability. Like, you want me to be vulnerable, but then when I try to be vulnerable, it's like, well, you're not being vulnerable the right way. And you're like, oh, well, I didn't realize vulnerability was about being right. I thought it was about being messy and honest. And then as a man, and men often feel this pressure to be the force that holds things together, to provide security to the home, to the marriage. It's like, well, okay, if I'm going to be vulnerable and it's just going to be another knock against how I don't have things together, then
Hmm.
actually, no, I'm going to put up these guards or I'm going to withdraw to keep from being vulnerable. Does that make sense?
It does. And is that right? Is that what I was going to say? Because I feel like you touched on the premise of this, the masculine shame,
Yeah.
the masculine, that a man needs to be the foundation, the steady, the hold it all together. Is that biblical? Is that from
No,
God?
it's definitely so it's complicated, right? Like
Okay.
so the best lies have an element of truth, right?
Hmm.
So that's very, very present here in this dynamic. So there is an element of God has given man strength to serve women.
Hmm.
And within the context of marriage and family, of laying our lives down. You look
Yeah.
at what we read in Paul's letter to Ephesus, this idea of laying our lives down the way Christ laid down his life for the church, for his bride.
Yeah.
So there is an element of we have a strength that we get to lay down.
Yeah.
And so when that strength is in question, there's a temptation to not turn to God and receive whatever we need from God. The temptation is to prove like, no, actually we are strong.
Hmm.
And we have men, I mean, all of us, we have insecurities that come against who we are as a strong, flourishing person.
Yeah.
And I know for me, where I've done this so wrong is those moments when I feel attacked, whether it's external or internal. I want to like, no, I'm going to prove that I'm this. And it's a function of pride, and it's pride that's coming against the shame. So whether I withdraw or I buck up, it's a function of pride. Like, oh, I'm going to withdraw and you'll see how much you need me. Or I'm going to fight you and show you that you're wrong, but I'm really not going to give you what you really want from me, which is honesty, because I don't trust you with my honesty. So I'm actually just going to give you my bravado in this situation. Does that make sense?
Is
Eh,
it always that you don't trust me with your honesty, or you don't trust the world with your honesty?
okay, so it's again, it depends on the person. It
You.
depends on their story. Me personally, it's both. There are times when I don't trust anyone. I don't want to trust anyone, and largely it's because I don't want to acknowledge it. Like, I don't want to
Hmm.
acknowledge it to myself. I don't want to acknowledge it to you. I don't want to acknowledge it to the world,
Why?
because this idea, I want to be perceived as someone who's holding things together. I mean, when I went through those 5 years of insomnia, that was largely me feeling inadequate, feeling shame for not doing a better job holding my world together. Like, it was a cycle of this shouldn't be so hard, but it is hard. God, you are distant. I'm reaching out to you. But what I was reaching out to God for is I basically wanted him to give me the strength to continue this illusion of having control of my world.
Yeah.
And so I do think sometimes, I've been hurt, speaking specifically for me, like, I've been hurt by you in a place where I was vulnerable and I feel like you took advantage of my vulnerability.
Mm.
Um, and so I don't want to open to you. But then other times it's a matter of
Like, do
I
you
don't want to
mind
share this
giving,
with anyone.
like, how do you feel like I've taken advantage of your vulnerability?
I would say in situations where it was, I mean, there's not a specific moment that
Sure.
comes to me, but what I feel in those moments is I share with you like, hey, I'm not doing well today and I need XYZ. And it's this like, well, you need to be doing well. Like, so that, like, that's not an option. Or it's, I feel like it's an attack on what I shared. It's like, whatever you're not doing well in, that's actually off limits. You have to be doing well in that thing. And it's almost like there's this theoretical acceptance of not doing well. But when actually not doing well, it's like, no, this is a thing you can't do well in. Or this is a thing like you don't have the luxury of not doing well in. And again,
Like when it's an interruption
correct.
to
Like it affects you,
life.
or it affects our family, or it affects, something where it almost feels like, oh, I may get a selfish response and I'm already feeling bad. And this is just going to turn into a source of conflict. And so I'm going to hold it and I'm just going to try to figure this thing out on my own. Which, you're so intuitive and you figure that out, and then it ends up coming out sideways, and it can be more intense than it needs to be than a simple conversation.
Yeah.
And if we're honest, like both of us have done this really well at times, and both of us, we haven't done it well. So I do think what he said about a man doesn't want to be vulnerable in a place where he feels small is so true, especially because men, and this is something that my dad used to say to my mom, and it always stuck with me because my dad would travel and he would preach, and all these people would be ministered to, or he'd write these books, and all these people would read the books and tell them like, "Hey, like this book changed my life," and I've experienced that too, to a degree, but so I can relate to what he's saying, but then it's this idea of I actually really. It's not that I don't care about that. It's not that it doesn't mean something. But if this right here, if I don't have your respect, if I don't have your love, if I don't have your buy-in, that really, it looks different for me, right? And so there's this element, I think, at times where it's like, man, I don't want to rock this boat because sometimes it feels like you've put yourself in a position of being the critic in my life. And he used to describe my mom as this too, like the critic of my life who, keeps my feet on the ground or whatever it may be. But in truth, like your affirmation, your confirmation is what I really crave more than anything else.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me that the Lord led you to a woman that has such similar similar areas for growth, where my natural inclination towards you is criticality.
Yeah.
Because I consider you, like, I've been ministered to by your books. So I consider you to be so incredible and such a gift to the world that when there are I don't want to call them blind spots, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
When there are inconsistencies in that, I'm like, oh, I got to go after that because who else is going to?
Yeah.
So few other people see it or know about it or have the voice that I have. And so I think as your wife, I can believe other people are celebrating, other people are doing those things for you, but no one else can come in and do the critical things, which isn't true because you have a very intimate relationship with Holy Spirit. You are under authority, not my authority. But that's how it can seem. In a human to human interaction. I can feel like I serve you best by pointing out the things that you need to focus on. The areas where you're missing it because no one else is going to. And what's confusing is that at times you're like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. The affirmation, that doesn't come as naturally for me. That wasn't modeled for me. I hate to be the first person to tell our audience this, but in some way, shape, or form, you are your parents, and your parents are in this marriage with you. Now,
even if it's what did you say? Even if it's like you're
reaction.
running away from, like in a way, they're still with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the marriage that was modeled for you, that you were raised in, is going to express itself within your marriage. Now,
Yeah.
what you do with that and how you choose as an individual to face off with that which you now have full ownership of, is up to every single person. And I think that is the journey, and why when we say marriage is hard, it's not hard because the person is difficult to be around. It's hard because of how much marriage brings up for you to then move through together.
I would say it's both of those. I would say sometimes it's hard because the person that you're with is difficult to be around. Like, just real talk. Like, we all have moments. We all have seasons. I mean, we've been married for 17 years, and I know I've had seasons where I was less enjoyable to be around.
Yeah.
Like, that's real.
Yeah.
And so that is a part of our formation, a part of the process. And even what you shared, I'm really grateful for the formative presence that you've had in my life. And you talk about you're not my authority, and that, there is truth to that. But even if you look at Ephesians 5, it talks about submitting to one another out of reverence in Christ,
Mm-hmm.
a reverence for Christ. So there's this idea of, hey, you know what? We're on a mission together that is bigger than either one of us. And we are one flesh, and the Holy Spirit is going to work through you, my wife, to do things in my life that are unique to you and your presence in my life. And I think for that reason, it's so important for women to understand the power that they hold over men, over their husbands, because along the lines of what he's saying, it can seem like the man doesn't hear you, or he's withdrawn, or he's silent, but he's likely processing a lot of the things that you're saying and doesn't know how to engage you in a way that would fit with where you're coming from or match the understanding that you have. I know one of my friends articulated this so well. He's like, I stopped having conversations with my wife so much sitting down at the table face to face when we would have difficult conversations, because I was always intimidated when I was sitting across from her. But when we started walking together, it was much easier for me to open up about what was actually happening inside of me. And I know even for me, it's not that I'm intimidated sitting side by side, but you get this look, and I'm sure our audience has seen it sometimes, where like you kind of raise, you raise your brow and stuff, and I'm like, oh gosh, what is she saying? What is she thinking?
It's my BS-ometer.
What did I? And it's not just BS. That's an extreme example. And here's the thing: I don't want people to miss it because we just talk about an extreme example. It's not always BS. It's this like, that wasn't quite right. That wasn't quite a reflection of, and it's more subtle than that, because even in the moment, it might be completely genuine. Like for me, like I don't think I'm in any way misrepresenting, but your view, your perspective of it is different. And in relationship, I mean, you have the Gospels, 4 accounts that provide very different tellings of certain moments of Jesus's life, and yet they're all inspired. They're all authoritative. And so I think as husband and wife, there needs to be a bit more humility, where it's not, hey, I'm right, you're wrong. It might be, hey, we're seeing this different. And maybe by honoring and understanding each other's differences, maybe we actually get a fuller picture of reality.
For sure.
And I think that's what he's getting at here, with this idea of, I think he said something along the lines of like, you correct his details of his stories and things like that, where it's like, okay, no, you just tell the story. Like that's the response. There is a withdrawal in those situations where there's this mutual representation, because it's okay, I know what it feels like is you're just waiting to jump in and be like, oh wait, no, he's not, that's not authentic, or that's not exactly how that went, or whatever it may be, and I need to correct it. And sometimes it feels like an overreaction, and so then the man would be inclined to withdraw and be like, okay, like you share this, and I'll sit and just listen, And so, I mean, even, babe, I would think there are times as we've done episodes of just being real, where it's been a topic where you've been like, hey, let's be more vulnerable about this, right? For me, I feel the safest to be vulnerable with you when we're having conversation is not when I feel this like, you better be vulnerable, but this like, hey, I honor you, I love you, I respect you. And like it communicates this like safety
Like,
and
I
this
want more
value.
of
I want
you.
more of you, this value, this like you are a treasure. I want to draw this out of you where there's a safety that then leads to vulnerability. And I think for men in general, men feel less safe to be vulnerable. And so
Because there's so much at stake.
because it feels like the stakes are really high
Yeah.
for a man. Um, and I think there's a lot of truth to that, where the stakes do feel higher. But that doesn't mean, and this is where again going back to the video, it doesn't mean that vulnerability is easy for every woman. It doesn't mean that there aren't women who don't feel that same sense of like, I've got to hold it together. I'm the bonding and binding force in my family or in my world or in my career or whatever it may be. And so I think there's a lot of things for us to learn from this message, even in our disagreement with the tone, the emphasis, the articulation, being curious about ourselves and being curious about our spouse. Because I think at the end of the day, what he says here, like, I'm not your enemy. I don't need you to fix anything. I just want you to know you're still here. I just want to know you're still here. That doesn't actually land with me, for me personally. But I could see how that lands with a lot of people.
What would be language that would land with you?
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I would say what would land for me is more an affirmation of who you see me to be. Just like, hey, I honor you. I see you. This is who you are. And yeah, like that's really
Gratitude.
and like, yeah,
I'm
gratitude
so
for
appreciative
for
of
who you
all
are,
the
what
things
you've
you
done.
do, the way you
especially-
do provide and surround and
Yes.
protect our family.
Because
Almost like those things are solid. You're safe here.
that's I think that's the key, is in those moments as a man, we can feel, hey, you are disregarding so many things that I do, and you are going after like a mistake that I've made, or maybe an area where I'm not as strong, and you are defining me by this thing right now. Like you have turned a blind eye, the extreme response. You've turned a blind eye to all of these other things, and you've made like the reality of who I am this
What I'm
one
not.
thing. And so of course the response is a defensive response, because that's not an accurate representation of who that man is. But I know for me, when I feel, and this is not an excuse to be like, hey, you know what, you can only humble yourself when the other person handles the situation the right way. But I know for me, when I feel most inclined to hear something really difficult or receive something difficult, within the marital context, is when I feel safe and honored in my role and my place as your husband and as a father of our kids. Because really the difficult conversations that we have are really related to our kids and decisions we're making about our kids and our dynamic as a couple.
Life being full and
Things like that.
calendar's too busy. Yeah.
Yes, which all do ultimately reflect dynamics between us and with our kids. And for me, those truly are the most important things. And when I'm being told that they're not the most important, or I'm being told that I'm not doing it right, and it becomes like this sweeping statement, that's really hard for me to hear, because I know internally, like I know what I navigate, and I know the prayers that I pray, and I know the decisions that I make, and I know that. And I think it's always dangerous to put your spouse in that either or position, because I think that doesn't lead to growth. It leads to an incorrect, truncated version of reality.
Say more about the either or position.
Yeah, what I mean by it's like you are a failure. If your message like you're a failure, this is all going down the drain, all that kind of stuff. or it's like, it's all perfect, it's all good, you're the best person in the world, you're like Jesus, like, and it's like, wait, like which one, like there has to be something that's like, this is way too much pressure and this is crazy,
Hopeless.
hopeless. Like there has to be something else where it's like, you are a good man and you're here and I'm with you and all of those things. And then also like, hey, I, I feel like we're missing it over here. Like, what would it look like for us to do this differently? Or, hey, I don't feel like we've had quality time to connect recently. So I'm feeling withdrawn from you, or I'm feeling like you're someone that I know you're not. I'm starting to believe these things. Like, we need some time together, because I know for me, I take us for granted. That's something that and you've expressed this very often, especially when it comes to our children. I believe like what I'm doing for our children and for our family is a reflection of my love and my devotion for you. And you have to tell me, Addison, like what you do for our kids, that's different than who you are as a husband toward me, right? Like, and so those are things where I know I miss it. And so I'm aware, like, and so I'm trying to move through that. But then there are times that comes at me so strong where I feel so caught up by everything that is happening in life and being faithful and being a good steward and all of those things, where it feels hopeless because of the intensity and the level of stakes that it's presented to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. And I know, just as an opportunity for self-reflection for any of our listeners, when I have been the deepest in the mode of fix this, make this happen, has been when I have trusted the Lord the least. And also in wilderness seasons when I haven't felt the presence of God the strongest.
Yeah.
Is when I will cling to you and your presence and your ability to get things done, to substitute for what I feel like God isn't doing, or where he's not coming through, or where I just don't feel him. It's like, hey, I'm going to need you to be God now.
Yeah.
And that is unfair and crushing. And even a very practical note about time. Like, they're one of the couples that I respected the most. They military, traveled a ton, had a ton of kids, and they had a set time every single day where they called it couch time. And their 7 children knew when dad walks in that door, yes, he greets you, he loves you, but his focus is connecting with mom.
Yeah.
And that is something so practical. And it doesn't have to be a half hour, but 10 minutes alone in your room, not to get it on, just to.
I mean, but what if it turns into that?
No.
It's okay.
No.
Oh, okay.
It needs to, like that. There is a greater potential for it turning into that later on.
Okay.
If you take those 10 minutes upon re-entry.
So if you come on to me during that 10 minutes, I just need to be
you just have to be like,
hey, no, this is couch time, but it's a different type of couch time. I got it.
Exactly. Let it build.
Let it build.
We'll circle back because that's important too. But this is person to person, foundation of your family, of your marriage, keeping this connection vibrant and energetic and giving time to something, not just lip service.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful. And I will do couch time with you. We should implement that. We should start with 10 minutes or 15 minutes, start with something small.
Our kids will be
they're going to be, because it is. I mean, it's a big thing. We come home and normally we're in the throes of, we've been going different ways, and we jump right into whatever we need to do that evening, taking kids different places.
Yeah,
making
dividing
dinner,
and
stuff like that.
conquering.
So it's real. It's a real challenge, and drift is real, right?
But for people with smaller children, or if you don't have kids,
Oh yeah,
like this is a great time
Build the
to
habit.
start that habit where we're disconnecting. We're not going to talk about logistics or schedules or whatever else, because that's not unique to people with 4 children. Like that's people who are newlyweds or all types of relationships. So if you build that habit in now, where it's like, no, this is what we do, because you'll start, like any good, fruitful habit, you will want to do it. You will be energized. You will be enthusiastic
Yeah.
about continuing it. It won't just be a have to. It will become a get to.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very practical where safety and appreciation so that the man does have these opportunities for vulnerability, not to be like, okay.
Well, and I think also when we just turn a blind eye to the reality of what's happening in the other person's life, it's really easy for a lot of pain and a lot of insecurity to rear its head as we're both still in this very real journey of becoming.
Yeah.
So those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I love them. Thank you for sharing them. This is a safe place.
You're welcome.
I respect you.
That was difficult. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm so appreciative of everything you are for our family.
Now I feel like you're mocking me.
I'm not.
I know.
I'm just, does this add up like a bank? I'm just.
Oh, baby. You're an amazing wife. I'm so grateful for you.
Thanks, love. I'm a work in process.
We all are.
Yeah. God, I just thank you for all of the marriages that are represented under the sound of our voices, God. And I am asking for your grace, your spirit to create safety within those homes where words that maybe have been spoken time and time and time again would fall on new ears, God, that there would be a freshness to these relationships so that you could have new eyes to see one another, where wives would you would just erase things that serve them no longer, even memories, God.
Yeah.
That there would be,
Reforming.
you would pull up any bitter roots that just don't need to go forth in these marriages so that there would be new opportunity for them to build upon a firm foundation, God. May we treasure the spouses, the partners that you have given us to do life with. Give us what we need to do that well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.